Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. The Meet the Candidates. Our next candidate is a candidate for school committee, ladies and gentlemen. Akriti Bhambi is a candidate for the Cambridge School Committee. She is the first generation of daughter of Indian immigrants. She believes strong, equitable public education forms the center of our community. Akriti received her master's in education from Harvard Education School and served for 4 years as State Representative Marjorie Decker's Chief of Staff. She is currently the Director of Health Equity for the Massachusetts Hospital Association. Welcome to the show, Akriti. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jimmy. I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day here in Cambridge. How are you?
Great. We're doing well. We love doing these Meet the Candidate forums because I get to meet all these new people, interesting people with different perspectives on the city and what needs to be done. But my basic question to everybody to start off is, Akriti, why are you running for Cambridge School Committee in 2021?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, Jimmy. The schools are an important and complicated space for me. So, my mom came to the US when she was young, was a hard worker and a head full of hopes and dreams, but life threw her curveballs pretty quickly. She got pregnant with me when she was young. She was scared. She left school, never finished it. And growing up, I saw the impact of her lost education kind of play out across her life and ours too. I think that we get our academic enrichment certainly in schools, but that's also a space where we figure out who we are as people, develop our self-confidence, our 2 feet on the ground. And my mom missed the opportunity to do that. She developed very severe and chronic depression. And so growing up, I actually had to caretake for her. And in fact, Jimmy, I left school at a certain point in order to do that full time. So I'm sitting at home and one day the phone rang. It was a teacher, but he doesn't just call me once. He calls me again and again and again, pulled me out of the home. I went back to school, finished college, ended up, as you said, getting my master's degree in education, specifically because it was a system that didn't seem to really hold my family generationally, but that I knew in my heart and my gut, I wanted to troubleshoot it and figure out solutions to problems that help every kid moving forward get the access that they need. And I'm running for school committee here in Cambridge because I care deeply about our community, our kids, and I think that we have the absolute possibility of building an excellent, equitable education system for all of our kids. And importantly, Jimmy, to support the wraparound pieces, the food, the extracurriculars, the out of school time that are requisite to ensure that every kid can really thrive here in our community.
Very ambitious goals, very compelling life story. Tell me, what are your three top priorities for the Cambridge School Committee?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the first one, I see myself as a strong systems level thinker. So I think the power of school committee is to be able to hold the budget and our policies and really think through strategically effective interventions that can be practiced across our 17 schools. And that starts for me first and foremost in the budget. So one of the pieces that we can really celebrate here in Cambridge is that we invest a tremendous amount of resources into our schools. We're national astronauts is in terms of, excuse me, how much money we invest in our schools and our kids. I think that we could push conversation to formalize assessing whether or not our investments are working, how they are working, and if they're flexible enough, and this is important, if they're flexible enough to meet the needs of a changing demographic, because our demographics here in Cambridge are changing. So investments that may have worked 5, 10 years ago may not work now. And I think it's important to develop formal systemic pathways to assess those investments. The second piece, I'm a firm believer in the bookends. So starting young, the playing field, I think, is started at a very young age. And I know I share this belief with many folks in the race here, but really robust interventions and investments in early education to make sure our kids enter into the school environment prepared to take on a lifetime of learning. And then sort of by the time that off ramp, by the time they're leaving school, ensuring that we've got really strong pathways for kids who, if they want to go to a 4-year school, they're prepared to do that and prepared to succeed there. If they don't, though, to really think about the ways that we're connecting with pre-professional programming, getting folks involved with the trades, with nursing, with other industries here in our state, so that we really recognize and honor the diversity of intelligence and lifelong learning that a lot of our students want to hold.
Wow, very ambitious. Let me ask you, so those are all three of your priorities right there?
Yep.
Your top three? Tell me, I grew up here. I went to Longfellow. We lived diagonally across the street. And at that time, nobody was, quote, had to go across town to go to school. And do you think we'll ever get to the place in our city, or is this an aspirational goal that you may hold or not, where it doesn't matter which of the schools you go to, which part of the city you live in, the school curriculum and this quality of the education is going to be pretty much the same? Do you think that's a valid goal?
I think so. I mean, what you're talking about is something I hold dear, which is, how do you build a public education system that isn't luck of the draw, right? That's the kicker in my story. What keeps me up at night is knowing that I got lucky at the end of the day. I got lucky a teacher reached out and pulled me out of a tough situation and got me back. So that wasn't a planned systemic intervention. Right. That was just really good timing. And I think a lot of kids get access to the rest of their futures through luck of the draw, right place, right time, right classroom, right time. And that it certainly doesn't reflect a system that works for all kids or is a guarantee work for all kids. So I think, to your point, to shoot for a system that guarantees that every kid, regardless of what they look like, where they live, gets an excellent education and the keys to their future, I mean, that should absolutely be our North Star. And I think I do want to, though, note that it's important to, while we do insist upon best practices, also recognize that teachers need creativity, need space for creativity, that school administrators need space for creativity to also recognize the particular culture within each school. And I think we can hold both. I think we can hold up best practices to ensure a high quality education and kind of dig into what does it feel like neighborhood by neighborhood or school by school.
Mm-hmm. When we were going to school, and not to harp on it, but the schools were not equal by any means. They just weren't. Some neighborhoods had much better schools and outcomes than others. Yeah. But you would think that with, I think you said 17 schools, that we could create a system where there's not very much difference between if you're going to the school in the Port, or you're going to the school in North Cambridge, or you're going to school in East Cambridge, or wherever you're going, West Cambridge, that the basic teachers, the quality of the teachers, the quality of the education, the classroom size, all of these things should be pretty consistent. And one of the reasons, I was just thinking about this the other day after talking to people like yourself, is the whole transportation issue of going across, all these people taking their kids all across town. That's more cars on the road, there's more congestion, etc. So one of the reasons I do these is because this is a learning experience for me as well as the host.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And what you're hitting at, Jimmy, is exactly the tough nut that government tries to crack and public education tries to crack, which is to say, and there's no better place to try this experiment out than our fair city of Cambridge. The strength we have is that our district and our city is diverse in so many ways. And it is neighborhood by neighborhood. It can feel like a different place. And I think that's a strength and a good thing. The challenge, and I feel I'm up for the challenge is thinking through the ways in which, despite, to your point, despite what neighborhood you're in, you're still getting access to the same level of high quality services. And I think that, to kind of bring it back to the start, that's why thoughtfully assessing our investments and thoughtfully assessing whether our policies and programming are working in a formal way year by year is really important to me. Because if we don't have that baseline information, we're shooting in the dark. And there's no way we do know if kids in the Port are getting a better or worse experience academically than kids in West Cambridge, for example.
Right. Is there any kind of, there probably is, but please clarify if you know, is there a tutoring system or something, like, say there's 25 kids in the room and one kid, 4 or 5 kids are just having a hard time with math or reading, whatever. People are reluctant to raise their hands and ask for help publicly in front of their peers. Is there a way that teachers are empowered to reach out to them and put them in, give them that extra help that they need, either with them or a tutor?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, and I'll answer to the extent that I know. My understanding is that we don't have universal access to that, which is to say, I do know some teachers who do feel overwhelmed right now, who do feel like they can't meet the needs of, again, this diverse learner group that they've got. Folks coming in with different lived experiences. So that's thinking through, you bring up a good point. I mean, thinking through the ways in which we can offer resources to our teachers to meet those varied needs is certainly something to think through on school committee a lot more.
Great. Well, you obviously had somebody reach out to you, and it changed your life. So I hope you can carry that off and pay it forward, as they say. So we're at the closing portion of your interview. Please give your closing statement. And again, thank you so much again for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Jimmy. And I'm grateful for everyone to tune in and listen to this. It's such a critical piece of democracy. So thank you. So like I said, my name is Akriti Bhambi, running for school committee here in Cambridge and asking for your #1 vote on November 2nd, or if you vote early, then even earlier, better. And the reason I'm asking for your #1 vote is because I know our community and our city very well. And I'm interested in making impact at the system level, as we've discussed, making sure that regardless of where you are, you get high quality education, but also at the granular level, really thinking about what are the starting points for kids when they're first entering our schools at the pre-K level. What do they need, and how do we support them consistently over time, so that by the time they get to the tail end of their academic career over at the high school, they feel prepared, they feel supported, they feel seen. And that also we create school cultures that ensure that teachers feel that they are supported, that our staff feel that they're supported, and that we continue to foster an environment academically here in Cambridge that gives back. We lose too many of our kids. They go off to other cities, to other states. And I'd love to see our school district continue to be the central point, as I believe it is, of a village of care and community generationally here in Cambridge. So humbly asking for your #1 vote, and hope to be lucky enough to serve on the school committee.
Great. Akriti Bhambi, thank you so much for joining us today. We wish you the best of luck, and we will see you on the campaign trail. Stay safe.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. Take care, all.
Bye-bye.